Another night has come, and we at Collinwood go on fearing for the state of mind of young David Collins. He has told us the terrifying secrets he knows, and we have not believed him. But there is someone who does believe him, and before this night is over, that someone will be a step closer to the truth, and thus a step closer to the Valley of Death.
Good evening.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
We met once, Eagle, the Eagle Hill Cemetery.
Eagle Hill?
Yes, I was on my way to the Collins Mausoleum.
Oh, yes, I remember. Why do you come here now?
You told me that there was a curse on the Collins family tomb. You remember?
Yeah, but you went there in spite of my warning.
Yes. Now I've come here because I think you know why that curse was placed on that tomb. Now, I want you to tell me.
No one living can tell you why there is a curse on the Collins' family tomb. Only the dead can do that. Only the dead.
That night in the cemetery, you spoke about a journal.
Journal?
Yes, you said that Joshua Collins had written something about the curse in a family journal.
Yes, that's true.
Is it still here?
It's somewhere in the family archives. I haven't looked at it for years.
Can I see it?
You will not find in it what you are looking for.
Why not?
Because it merely states that there is a curse. It does not specify the nature of it.
You sure?
Positive. Why do you want to know these things? What are you doing here?
Well, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking for and what I'm doing here, but, well, I just know that I'm reasonably sure that, the secret of the Collins Mausoleum has some bearing on some crimes that have been committed around here recently.
What kind of crimes?
Several women have been attacked by some man or creature. And one woman was was kidnapped and found at the Collins Mausoleum.
And you think one of
don't
the
know
bodies
what
in
to
that tomb?
I don't know what to think. I just would appreciate your cooperation.
Oh, what can I do?
Just let me look at some of the records of the Collins family.
It'll take some time for me to get them all. Collins's records have not been disturbed for many, many years.
You take all the time you need. I'll wait.
Good evening, Barnabas.
Good evening, Roger.
Well, I must say, it's a pleasant surprise to see you here at Collinwood. I thought you might have disowned the rest of the family by now.
Why on earth would I do a thing like that?
Well, after all the nonsense you've been subjected to, I wouldn't blame you if you had.
On the contrary, I came to the house to see if David's mental state had improved any.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Barnabas. But I think it's going to be some time before David is himself again.
Well, Elizabeth said the psychiatrist had gotten him to calm down considerably. At least he's not telling any more stories about hidden coffins.
Yes, well, if I have my way this evening, he won't be able to tell any more such stories, at least here at Collinwood.
What do you mean?
I think you were right about David. I think the best thing for him is to send him away someplace. And while I was in Boston, I think I've come up with the ideal place. I'm going to talk to Elizabeth tonight and try to convince her that it's the only solution.
Well, for David's sake, I hope you succeed.
Thank you, Barnabas. Good night.
Good night, Roger.
Sarah Collins, age 10, a child of singular cheer and enduring virtue,
It isn't Sarah I'm so interested in at the moment.
departed this life after sickening with a fever, deeply mourned by mother, father, and grieving brother.
Yes. It's that grieving brother I want to find out more about.
Barnabas Collins. Yes, it was an astonishing thing.
What was?
A resemblance between Barnabas Collins and his ancestor. He was walking through the cemetery one night, and when I first looked at him, I thought he was the original Barnabas Collins, come back to life.
This is very strange.
Oh, what is it?
Well, it says here that Barnabas Collins suddenly went away to England after surviving a brief siege of the fever, which did most seriously deprive him of his strength and alter his personality. Well, strange that both he and his sister were afflicted by the fever.
But the little girl died and was buried here.
Well, here's something even more strange. Listen. On the very same day that Barnabas went away, his father ordered the mausoleum to be built in Eagle Hill Cemetery. Oh, why did he have it built there, so far away from the other Collins graves?
I don't know.
Might have been something to do with why Barnabas went away.
According to the family records, Barnabas Collins remained in England for the rest of his life.
Family records are no different from any other kind of records. They don't always tell the truth.
What do you mean?
I don't think that Barnabas Collins ever went to England in the first place. I don't think that he ever left Collingsport.
David is not leaving Collinwood, Roger, and that's all there is to it.
I think you should at least hear me out, Elizabeth.
I've heard enough. Military school indeed.
And what's wrong with a military school?
It may be fine for some little boys, but not for David.
Elizabeth, David is living in a world of fantasy. I think that the hard reality and discipline of a military school is just what the doctor ordered.
I've spoken to the doctor, and it's not what he ordered.
You really think that this psychiatrist that you sent for is going to help David?
I think that whatever is troubling David will be taken care of right here and not by sending him away.
You haven't answered my question.
Dr. Fisher has a very fine reputation. If anyone can get to the bottom of David's problem, he can.
And so we're to go on letting David tell his wild stories and make these outrageous accusations about members of the family. Is that it?
Is he embarrassing you, Roger? Is that why you want to send him away?
You know better than that.
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. I know you're as concerned about him as the rest of us.
Liz, won't you at least come to Boston with me and let me show you this school? It's unfair of you to pass judgment without even seeing the place.
Roger, as far as I'm concerned, the subject is closed.
You're just being arbitrary and unreasonable.
I'm doing what I think is best for David.
He's my son, Elizabeth. I can send him wherever I choose, with or without your approval.
Well, if he leaves, it's without my approval. And I wouldn't let that happen if I were you, Roger.
Oh, very well. Go along with Dr. Fisher for the time being, at least. But I'm going to keep his application on file at school, just in case the good doctor doesn't work out.
Good evening, Roger. Mrs. Stoddard.
Dr. Woodard?
Well, Dr. Woodard, what can we do for you?
I'd like to see David, if I may.
Well, it's rather late for that, isn't it?
Yes, I know I promised I'd be by earlier, but I was detained by a patient.
Well, if he's still awake, I don't mind.
I'll go and get him, Doctor.
Can I offer you a drink, Doctor?
No, thank you. I have some work to do later.
Well, you must work around the clock.
Lately, it would seem that way, yes.
Well, let's go into the drawing room. You'll be more comfortable. Is, something the matter?
No, I was just fascinated by the portrait. It's very interesting.
Tell me, what do you find interesting about it?
The eyes. They seem to follow you wherever you go. I've often wondered how painters achieve that effect.
Dr. Woodard, is there something in particular you want to see David about?
No. Why?
Well, I just wondered whether it was a professional or a friendly call.
Well, you might say both. I promised David I'd drop by and talk to him after he'd seen Dr. Fisher.
You really think that this Dr. Fisher will be able to help David?
If David cooperates with him, yes.
Well, I hope you're right. He hasn't had any peace of mind for this past year. First the experience with his mother, and now these hallucinations about Barnabas.
They're not hallucinations.
Oh, come, Doctor. Do you think that these hallucinations have any basis in fact?
I don't know what to think anymore.
Well, personally, I think it's a matter of environment. David is lonely here. He needs playmates. I think that if he were given the chance to be around children his own age for a while...
Roger.
We will have to continue this discussion at another time, Doctor.
Why don't you and I go into the study and leave Dr. Woodard and David by themselves?
All right. Good night.
Hello, Dr. Woodard.
How are you feeling, David?
Fine, I guess.
You're going to be feeling a lot better and very soon.
What do you mean?
David, I came by tonight to tell you that I believe you now. I believe everything you've told me.
Why do you believe me now?
Because I went out to the mausoleum tonight myself and I met Sarah.
You did?
Yes, we had a long and very interesting talk.
What did she tell you?
Well, she didn't tell me everything I wanted to know, but she told me enough so I know that now that whatever it is that's frightened you is real and not in your mind.
You mean she talked about Barnabas?
No, I couldn't get her to mention Barnabas, but well, I do know that Barnabas now, I'm sure, is responsible for sealing that room so we couldn't get into it.
Well, if you know that now, why don't you tell everyone?
There's one thing to knowing it, David, and another to prove it.
Well, what are we going to do?
I'm going to do a little more investigating, so
I'd come up with some more answers.
Well, do you think that Barnabas is
Is what, David?
dead?
I don't know. The thought of what he might be frightens me as much as it did you.
What do you think he might be?
That I'm going to find out. And very soon. I know this much. I'm certain of one fact, and that is that Barnabas is the reason for that secret room in the mausoleum.
And you think that coffin is his?
Was his. I know, it's a terrifying thought. David, I want you to promise me one thing.
What is it?
That you won't tell anyone about our talk tonight. I want it to be our secret until I can get some more proof.
Well, don't you think you should get someone to help you?
I tried to get Burke, but he's gone out of town for a few days.
Well, we should wait till he gets back.
No, I've got to go through with this myself. I have a feeling that time isn't on my side. Yes, now, David, remember, not one word to anyone. Now, you just sit tight and I'll take care of everything.
I won't say anything.
Good boy.
Oh, Dr. Woodard, you'll be very careful, won't you? I wouldn't want anything terrible to happen to you.
Don't you worry, David. Nothing's going to happen to me.
Dr. Woodard.
Good evening, Barnabas. May I come in?
Well, if you're looking for Miss Hoffman, she isn't here.
As a matter of fact, it's you I'd like to see.
Oh. Well, do come in.
Thank you.
May I take your coat?
No, thank you. I don't think I'll be here long.
What did you want to talk to me about?
I wanted to talk to you about your cousin David.
Ah, yes. How is the boy?
A lot more healthy than most people think.
Well, that's an interesting comment in view of the rather lurid aberrations the boy's been having.
I happen to be a minority of one. I don't think they are aberrations.
I see. In face of all the evidence to the contrary, you still give credence to the boy's stories. I find that astonishing for a man of science.
Why?
Why? Because it's so much nonsense. Why, the boy has told the most incredible stories, one after the other, and each one of them has been proven false.
You know, there's another strange thing.
What is that?
Well, David's never given you any reason to... He's never given any reason... You've never given him any reason, rather, to hate him, have you?
None at all.
And even before he started to tell these lies, you and he enjoyed a very harmonious relationship.
What's your point, Doctor?
Well, there must have been a strong motivation for David to start telling these lies about you. I can't find that motivation. I thought perhaps you could tell me what it is.
I haven't the slightest notion what it is. I suggest you consult the psychiatrist for an answer to that.
I talked to Dr. Fisher this afternoon.
Now, don't tell me he believes that the boy is telling the truth.
No. But he did further a most interesting theory.
Oh, and what is that?
That he thought that perhaps part of the terror that David feels for you and the fear might stem from the remarkable resemblance to the original Barnaby's Collins.
That resemblance, Doctor, is nothing new. We've known that for a long time. Now, why hasn't David been frightened of it before?
Perhaps he read about it in one of the family books. Maybe he read something about the original ancestor that terrified him.
Now, what could he have read?
I was hoping you could tell me that.
I don't know that much about the man.
I thought you were an authority on family history.
On family history, yes. But I don't indulge in the rather dubious practice of looking for skeletons in the family closet.
Meaning there are skeletons in the family closet.
Doctor, if you don't mind, I think we've played out our little game. There's nothing more to be said.
What do you mean?
I will spell it out for you. I am sick and tired of being the object of insinuation. I'm fed up with people taking it upon themselves to have me investigated. Now, I've tried to cooperate with all of you, and I've been rewarded with one slap in the face after the other.
I saw your sister Sarah tonight.
Perhaps David isn't the only one who suffers from aberrations. You know as well as I do that I have no sister.
I might have been wrong. I thought she said sister. Maybe what she really said was ancestor.
You've overstayed your welcome, Doctor. Good night.
Good night, Barnabas.